What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Jacked Up podcast. My guest today is one of those people that you just don't know really what to talk to him about. He's kind of a jack of all trades. He has a master's degree in psychology. He studied hypnotherapy, neurolinguistic programming. He helps people with their personal finances, helps young people learn about well-being, and he even uses his love of music and hypnotherapy to create self-hypnosis audio pieces, which are kind of like binaural beats to help you relax and things like that. Guys, this has to be one of the most informative episodes that I've done to date, and I can't wait for you guys to enjoy it. So let's dive right in. Please welcome Jonny Baker. Jonny, welcome to the show, brother. Glad to have you.
Hi, John. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, man. Well, thanks for coming on. You know, I was reading through your bio and whatnot, and I got to tell you, I haven't been doing this for a really, really long time, but you have to be without a doubt one of the most interesting guests that I've had on the show. Some of the stuff, and I'm not going to give away too much. I'm going to let you tell some of these stories, but some of the stuff like making certain things out of cheese and things like that really struck me as kind of interesting. So with that being said, why don't you tell our listeners why it is that you identify with the whole black sheep mantra so much?
So I think if you look at me, I don't probably look like, I look quite conventional, probably. Mm-hmm. And you know, it's not really kind of looks or how I might appear to people. Because in a sense, I think people who are, I think a lot of people want to appear different, want to appear kind of unusual. Mm-hmm. But actually, it's kind of the other way around for me, that I want to appear to be normal. I don't see any point in expressing being a black sheep through the way I dress or you know, the way I have my hair cut or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So for me, it really is it's in terms of like the choices I make, how I'm what's the word? Encouraged to express myself, let's say. I just like to think outside the box, and I like to do things differently to other people. Right. And there's a lot of sense in doing that, but it's kind of a bit deeper than that. It's something that even when I don't need to be, I find myself, you know, doing something, even if it's a little bit awkward or makes things a little bit more complicated, right, I will go down the more difficult route. You know, that seems to be my life. Gotcha. I'm kind of embracing it now, but in the past, I think it's been a bit of a struggle. It's been a bit difficult.
Right. It can be.
So
it can
be. Yeah. But yeah, you know, it's part of life. We grow, we learn, we understand more about ourselves and about each other. Mm-hmm. And the things that the problems for us become the assets that we have, like the things that we offer to the world. And so I feel like I've been in the position where I've been able to overcome a lot of those things.
Gotcha. Yeah. See, and that's the thing. That's one of the reasons that I wanted to have you on the show. Not only because some of the other things that we're going to discuss as we go on here, but because I myself have always identified as a black sheep. I was the black sheep in my family. I was the middle child. The youngest and the oldest were brainiacs and did everything that they were supposed to do and got all the accolades from the parents and everything else. So whatever those two didn't do, that's what I did. So I usually wound up getting in trouble. But it's just I truly identify with the whole black sheep attitude. So that was one of the biggest reasons that I wanted to have you on the show. But you're also you're kind of like a jack of all trades, I would say. You know, going through your bio, some of the things that you've been involved in. I mean, now as far as shaping your professional career, how did you go from being in art school and attending an art college to getting involved with things like hypnotherapy and things like that? Kind of take us through that process a little bit.
Sure. So I I really struggled in school, and I'm dyslexic, and I have problems academically. So school was a struggle for me, and by the time that I could leave, I left because I just wanted to get out of there.
Right.
There was an art school just literally just down the road from where I was at school, and I checked it out. I took my portfolio in, and they seemed really interested in what I had to express, but I was very surprised because I'd never had that response from anyone really.
Right.
So they really gave me the freedom to do really whatever I wanted to do, to kind of let the imaginative, crazy part of my brain just go a little bit wild. So it was perfect for me. So I really came out of myself in many ways through art school, and I moved on to do a degree. And again, throughout my degree, I did a lot of experimentation, like in terms of the work that I created, and in terms of, you could say, what I put into my body as well, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, and throughout that process, I became interested in hypnosis, and it also went back to a time when I was working in a pub. This is when I was 13 years old. I worked in this pub, and there was a guy who owned the pub was also a hypnotherapist, and he just seemed really interesting. So those two things sort of connected in my mind. I was exploring the mind, how it works, and suddenly I thought, I've got to learn more about this. Finished art college, and I knew that I didn't want a career in graphic design, which is what I was headed towards.
Right.
But by the time I finished art college, I was completely obsessed with hypnosis. So I enrolled on a diploma in hypnotherapy.
Right.
And that's how it all began, really. And I knew almost before I started the course, I knew that this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So yeah, it was a great process, definitely.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, I have to ask, because you included it in your bio, the whole process of knitting on magic mushrooms and making model cars out of cheese. You have to tell us that story.
Sure. So I was, I suppose you could call it, if you're into art, you might say I was kind of interested in not so much surrealism, but Dada, which is like a precursor to surrealism, which really involves things that are out of the blue and don't make a lot of sense.
Okay.
And so I got into to creating just the weirdest things that I could think of, like a tongue beard. So I kind of created this thing out of some gloves. I sewed them all together. And then I kind of stuck loads of hair onto it, and then I stick it on my tongue, took a picture of it. It's horrible. It's just a horrible thing to have in your mouth. But so there was that, and I also thought, okay, well, I played around with cheese. So I started sculpting cheese. So it's a little bit expensive, so all of my sculptures were pretty small.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I made that was more like complete, I suppose, was a little model car. It was like a Beetle, a Volkswagen Beetle,
right,
made out of cheese. Yeah, and obviously it didn't last very long. It got a little bit moldy. But maybe that's part of the art. I don't know. So that's where the car made out of cheese came from. And then a little bit later on, I was talking to my tutors at art college, and I was saying, I'm really interested in the experiments. You may have heard of these experiments where they give spiders different drugs, and then they look at the spider's web, and it's kind of a map of that drug in a way.
Wow.
So a spider's web, the spider that they gave speed, for example, or cocaine, would be really, they'd build it really quickly, but it'd be really messy.
Right.
It wouldn't work as well. It wouldn't keep together as well. So there was various different drugs, and then magic mushrooms and LSD. They were much more intricate. They took a lot more time on building their webs, but they were very symmetrical and kind of what you'd imagine it like if you've had an experience like that. So I thought, okay, well, what can I do on magic mushrooms? At the time, there was a loophole in the law which meant that you could actually buy fresh, in this country, in the UK, you could buy fresh magic mushrooms, and it wasn't illegal. Oh. So, yeah, I mean, they closed that loophole pretty quickly, but
I'm sure
myself and my friends, we took full advantage of that. And I was talking to my tutor, kind of half joking about it and saying that maybe I can build a wall out of bricks. I don't know, something
right.
on LSD. And he got a little bit concerned. And then I got a letter a few days later saying, you absolutely must not do this, et cetera, et cetera. So I just thought, well, okay, I'll do this one at home. I'll do this on my own. And
right.
I just learned a few simple, like one knitting pattern, and I thought I'll make a scarf, but on magic mushrooms.
Okay.
So I did, but I mean, it wasn't particularly. If you looked at the scarf, I mean, it was more like a small rectangle of wool rather than a scarf. You couldn't really use it as a scarf because. I didn't really. I suppose I got distracted quite a lot.
Gotcha.
And it wouldn't really. You would look at it, you wouldn't really know that it had anything to do with that. So as it turned out, it wasn't a particularly. It didn't communicate very well as a work of art, but it was an interesting experience for me, and I learned a lot, and I kind of explored. I suppose myself and my mind a lot by doing that. Yeah,
absolutely. And that's the thing. I'm I've many times on my shows I've talked about that I'm a big fan of people like Aubrey Marcus, who was the founder of Onnit. Joe Rogan. These two were actually partners that started Onnit, and they're both big proponents of hallucinogenic, things, but natural stuff like ayahuasca and mushrooms and things of that nature. And they talk so much about how it connects the body to the mind on a whole new level. Now, you have also studied psychology, hypnotherapy, and NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, which I myself, although I've never really actually studied it, one of my biggest mentors, Tony Robbins, is a huge proponent of NLP. I mean, he actually, that was one of his major focuses of study when he was in college before he became the absolute mega guru that he is now, even though he says he isn't, when it comes to being able to literally, I've watched videos where he has literally just changed people's lives in 15 minutes after talking to them. And when you stop to think about how closely the mind-body connection is related to so much of what goes on in our lives, it's crazy, So now, with that being said, you've actually got a master's degree in psychology, and you've done a lot of work with hypnotherapy. Do you get a lot of people that come to you for hypnotherapy services that are surrounding like weight loss and things of that nature?
Yes, absolutely. So it's all sorts of different things, from addictions, weight loss, anxiety, relationships. I find that there's often multiple different things that people want when they come to see me. It's a collection of different things. It's rarely ever one thing that we're focusing on.
Right.
And so for me, the way I see it is really it's the person that I'm working with. I'm not working with an addiction. I'm not working with weight loss or something like that. But yeah, So yeah, a lot of people have come to me to see for help with weight loss, which is very different to other addictions, because with other addictions you can stop. With weight loss, you can't stop eating. You know.
Yeah.
So,
You can't just say I'm not going to eat food anymore. That's for sure. You definitely can't do that.
Exactly.
Yeah. But and it's actually interesting because I myself, with working with my clients, I have a very holistic approach when it comes to dealing with people with weight loss, nutrition education, and things of that nature, because I believe, and I'm sure you would probably agree, that you need to address underlying issues and limiting beliefs and all these other environmental factors that come into play when people have any kind of disordered eating. Now, when I say disordered eating, a lot of people think of the eating disorders, and eating disorders and disordered eating are two entirely different things. Disordered eating is all about, there's just something going on inside you, and sometimes it's physical, but most of the time it's mental, or emotional, but it causes you to practice unhealthy eating habits. And if you don't address those issues and all you do is just try to say, okay, we need to limit how much food you're eating, and you only need to eat this much of this and this much of that, you're not really helping the person as an individual. You're I say it all the time, you're putting a Band-Aid on cancer because you're not fixing what's going on inside.
Absolutely.
So with that being said, say for example, someone came to you and they'd been yo-yo dieting for several years, and trying to lose weight. They have a situation where they're maybe have like, the beginnings of hypertension, their cholesterol's a little high, stuff like that. So they're at a point where, as they're getting older, they really, really need to address the issue, and nothing they've done has worked so far. As a hypnotherapist, how would you go about, without getting into too much detail that blows people's minds, how would you go about helping that person?
I would look for the pattern with which they eat. And this probably often goes back to childhood. So what do they eat for? What is that? And often there's some kind of a pain that eating will distract them from. And it could be eating, it could be drugs, it could be many different things. In this case, it's eating. And then there's the cycle, isn't there? So there's the pain, and to distract from the pain, people eat more, and then they put weight on and they feel worse about themselves, and then that creates more pain, so they eat more, and so that's the pattern, really. And so for an individual person, I would explore with them the moments where they have felt compelled to eat, or to continue eating when they know they've had enough to eat, if you know what I mean, or choosing what to eat, and everything around that, or their decision making about it. And that exploration, in a way, is not just exploration, it's also transformation. So by helping them to be aware of those moments in their own lives, then they can have a new perspective on it, and they can start to create a new way of thinking, feeling, and behaving around that pattern. That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess if it comes down to it, if they really needed to, as a hypnotherapist, can you with hypnosis, can you actually interrupt that behavior? Like, once you identify that it's, every time a person sees their aging parent, for example, it brings, like, say, Let's draw a scenario where you have someone who has disordered eating issues, they're overweight, and they had a lot of issues in their childhood to where they didn't get the love or something from their parents. There was some sort of traumatic experience with their parents, and then every time they go to visit their parents afterwards, they have a traumatic event where they binge eat or something of that nature. Can you actually go in with and help that person with hypnotherapy and actually interrupt that behavior?
Absolutely, and it's also related to NLP as well.
Right.
So some of the NLP techniques are really hypnosis techniques as well.
Okay.
And it might be as simple as slowing something down. So you could get someone to go through not just the thinking and the feeling, but the behavior of eating something.
Right.
And so I get them to pretend that they're doing it there in front of me. And I'll slow that process down, and maybe they're taking a sandwich or a burger or something, and they're bringing it up to put it in their mouth and eat this delicious thing. And by slowing it down, you can kind of get them to be aware of the emotions that are going on during that process as well.
Okay.
And you can literally just stop, maybe just gently kind of stop that behavior and get them to pause that in that moment. And I'm not sure, it does something. It definitely sends them into a trance doing that. And then there's an opportunity to repattern what's going on in their mind and their emotions within this behavior. So the next time they have it, they can't complete that cycle. So that's kind of one way of working with it. And another way might be through regression or something like that. So there are many different ways of doing it. One, and I know we live in a digital age, but I still quite like the library technique. Like, people don't go to libraries anymore, but they work. So the idea is that you put yourself, or you describe for them, you do an induction first, of course, and you get them into a relaxed state, and a few convincers that help them to realize that they're in hypnosis. And then you'll help them to find themselves in let's say, in a library in their imagination.
Yeah.
And there's a corridor in this library where there are books on either side. And then the further they walk down that corridor, the further they go back through their life.
Right.
Okay, so I would generally take them all the way back to the beginning of their life, and then I would get them to go forward. And if they feel the urge to reach out to a book on either side of them at any point, I'll get them to put it out, and then I'll get them to go to read it and say, okay, what age are you at this point? And is there any other information that's interesting on the cover of this book that gives you an idea of what's going on? They open it up, and then you have an opportunity to go into a scenario at that point in their life. Now, this doesn't always need to be conscious, so they may not know exactly what that moment is,
right,
or what's going on in that moment. But I can talk to them in such a way that they don't need to speak necessarily. They might just give me a signal by lifting a finger to say yes or no. Okay. So I can speak with them through, that way quite easily. And then, it's a simple situation of, okay, really looking at this situation from different points of view. Perhaps there were other people involved in the situation, not just you, around food or something like that, or maybe a painful event that happened in their childhood, let's say. And they can see it and learn different things according to the different people who are looking on, who are a part of the situation. Or if it's just them, you can just take them above so that they're sort of looking down from above, and they can see a certain amount of what's happening from a third point of view.
Oh, okay.
And getting those different perspectives, that's really what does the trick. That's what kind of opens it up and breaks the conventions of their thinking, of their beliefs. And so then you can kind of come back to the library and keep moving forward. And if there are other events that need dealing with, you can deal with them. And there you go. So I find that a really useful technique to use. With some more adventurous people, we put a door at the end of the corridor and we go into past lives as well.
Oh, okay.
can be quite interesting. I mean, I'm not. So I don't. When it comes to past lives, when it comes to what's actually happening, it doesn't really matter whether it's true or whether it's real or not, or whether they're really going into a past life or not. It only matters that it works for them. That's kind of my way of looking at it.
Well, yeah, because I mean, even if whether past lives or whatnot are real, if even the subconscious mind thinks that they are real, then that's going to have an effect on the conscious.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
now here's the part that I really need to ask you though, with hypnotherapy and dealing with addiction. Now, addiction, especially drug addiction, is physical. It's 100% physical. So now, granted, there are some emotional and psychological aspects to it as well. But once they're physically addicted, they're physically addicted. How does hypnotherapy help with that kind of situation?
I think I know what you mean, because there are physical addictions to certain chemicals, and I'm aware of that sort of in one part of my mind. But through hypnotherapy, there's not really an acknowledgement of that kind of difference, whether there should be or not.
Okay.
So I don't really operate through the lens of there's no separation between the physical, the emotional, and the mental.
Okay.
It's all part of the same system, and there might be physical symptoms that people get in withdrawal from certain substances. They might get sweats, their heart might beat faster, and all sorts of physiological things that happen. Obviously, we'll do a lot of the things that I've already spoken about.
Right.
But we'll also look at the day-to-day practicalities of overcoming those sensations of moving beyond them, whether they're emotional, whether they're physical or mental, wherever they come from. And a lot of the time, it's really a case of being mindful is the best way to describe it. Right. Having some kind of a distance from what's going on, so that you can just be aware of those sensations, whether they're pleasant or unpleasant, and really teaching someone to be able to very practically in that moment go, oh, hang on a minute, I've got this real craving to, I don't know, have a cigarette. I was going to say fag. That's what we call them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no. If you would have said it, I would have known what you meant. I would have known.
Some people have those addictions too.
Right.
Anyway, so yeah, a cigarette, or it might be, they might even be shooting heroin or doing a line of cocaine. They might have that urge, or they might have that feel those withdrawals. So in that moment, it's simply a case of giving them the tools, the resourcefulness,
right,
to be able to describe that feeling. And this is an NLP technique that I find really helps in this situation. Okay. And that's literally to describe the qualities of a feeling. So you say, hey, is that feeling hot or cold? Right. Is that feeling moving or still? Right. Is that feeling heavy or light? And by giving them these qualities, giving them or noticing, whichever you prefer, they change the way that they are interacting with them. Suddenly you're observing it and you're not a victim to it, Yeah. So that's how I would approach it, basically.
Okay. Yeah. So you do have right. So you do have the ability to give people tools to help cope. Now, obviously, nothing that anybody does to the mind can take away the physical aspects of like the withdrawal, like you were saying, and things of that nature. But you can give them the tools to help them deal with it better, which I think is amazing, because I think, and I have never been addicted to any kind of drug myself, but I have known people that have. I've lost loved ones to drug addiction. And I think that, like going to say for people that are addicted to heroin, let's use that as an example. For those people that go to a methadone clinic, they're getting the physical help from the methadone, but and they may get some counseling, but they're really not dealing with the emotional and the psychological issues that are coming along with not only what fed their addiction to begin with, but the processes that they're going to be going through as they move away from it. And I really think that it's powerful that people get this message, that people that are well versed in things like hypnotherapy and in NLP practices and psychology and things like that. I would recommend that anyone who's dealing with any kind of an addiction like that seek out that type of help as well. Because anything that you can do to hinge your bet, so to speak, anything that you can do to increase your chances of success, and it doesn't matter whether it's dealing with addiction or weight loss or whatever. If you have tools at your disposal that you can utilize to improve your chance of success, why not do it?
Absolutely, yeah. I think the way I was taught to use hypnotherapy and coaching is to use the client's model of the world. Okay. So if somebody, for whatever reason, believes that the physiological symptoms can be relieved and can be changed like that within a hypnotherapy session, then that can happen. Okay. And the only reason I'm saying that because I have had clients who've been smoking 60 a day and they've reported after having a couple of sessions with me, that they haven't had any kind of urges or any kind of symptoms. And in fact, when I was learning hypnotherapy, I was smoking, and my hypnotherapist, my teacher, did actually a group demonstration on me. And I stopped smoking, and I never felt anything. I never felt any urges. I couldn't believe it. So I don't know what's possible. I don't really know if it's possible to do that or not, or if it's just they really could. These people are really convincing themselves that that's possible, so they're not aware of those physiological symptoms as much. Right. Who knows?
You don't know, but
to keep an open mind.
Indeed, so, and the brain is. People do not realize just how powerful the brain is. Now, I myself, I smoked for 30 years, and but I'm the type of person, in the way my mind is wired, that once I make my mind up that I'm going to quit something, or I'm going to make a shift from one thing to another, then I'm usually pretty successful at doing it. Now, in the case of me quitting smoking, I had smoked for 30 years. I was smoking 2 packs a day. And initially going in, I was like, I knew I wanted to quit, but I didn't think that I was going to be able to do it simply on my own. So I got a prescription for Chantix. And the way the Chantix work is, the first week you smoke normally. The second week, you're supposed to cut your intake in half. And then by the third week, you're supposed to quit smoking. And then you go for like 6 weeks, I think the program was. After week 1, because my mind was already primed that I was going to quit smoking, I literally threw half a carton of cigarettes and the Chantix away and never looked back. If you tell yourself, just like people tell themselves all the time, that they look in the mirror. You have people that have situations like body dysmorphia and stuff like that. They're healthy, but they look in the mirror and they think they're fat, and that brings on eating disorders and all this other stuff. If they tell themselves a concept long enough, they're going to convince themselves of it. So by the same token, you can just as powerfully manipulate how you see things to improve the quality of your life just as much as you can by doing all those things and worsen the quality.
Absolutely. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there.
Yep. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why when I decided that I was going to get into this and actually help people, which I've been helping people off and on for years as I went through my weight loss journey and getting healthy and whatnot. But when I decided that I wanted this to be my career, this is my obsession. This is my passion. This is what I do. I decided I wanted to take an extremely holistic approach and not only just deal with the numbers, the weight and the grams and the calories and all that, but I wanted to get in here too, because I know from my own personal experience that a person that wants to be successful at anything like this has to look deep inside and they need to find that why. And once you find that why, hold on to it, man. And I tell people all the time, write your why down on a piece of paper and put it on your bathroom mirror so it's the first thing you see when you get up in the morning. And, put it up, tape it to your dashboard of your car so you can look at it while you're driving on the way to work. And your why can be anything. It can be your family. It can be your dog. It can be whatever you want it to be, as long as it's something that will drive you to want to achieve the goals that you're setting for yourself. Grab that why and focus on it, man.
Absolutely. It's purpose, isn't it? It's absolutely fundamental to well-being.
Right.
Well-being can be boiled down to really two things: having purpose, having that why for everything that you do, and things that you don't really have that why for. That's the reason why they're probably not as successful. And social connection. Having that, and they kind of work together.
Indeed.
Once you got those,
Indeed. And that's the other thing that I focus on too, telling people that is so powerful, and that is having that social connection, having accountability. If you're not accountable to anybody but yourself, and you have a history of issues that cause you to practice things in life that aren't necessarily the best for you, you're not going to be accountable to just yourself. So put yourself out there, whether it's with other family members, whether it's with coworkers, whether it's just posting on social media. So many times I see Facebook pages and Instagram accounts and all these things where these people are just doing it so they can put themselves out there. It's like, here I am, I'm 400 pounds and I need to lose weight, and I'm going to keep posting every day because I want to build a following, because I want these people to expect me to achieve my goals. It's almost like it gives them extra fuel to reach the outcome. Does that make sense?
It really does.
Yeah.
It reminds me of this little story I heard. I can't remember where I heard it from. There's a frog and a scorpion. And they have to get across this pond. Okay, scorpion has to get to the other side of the pond. There's something important on the other side. And so the scorpion says to the frog, "Can you give me a ride on your back across this pond so I can get there safely?" And the frog said, "I'm not an idiot. You're a scorpion. You could sting me and I'd die." And he said, "But if I sting you and you die, I won't be able to get across to the other side of the pond either." So the frog goes, "All right, hop on." So they make their way across this pond, and then the scorpion stings the frog. And the moral of the story is that the scorpion can say whatever they want, but they're still a scorpion at the end of the day. And they're going to let themselves down, even if they have the best intentions to get across that pond and to not hurt anyone or not to not break their promise. And it's the same a lot of the time with addictions, that we have we have the best intentions as people who are addicted, and we let ourselves down and we let other people down by bringing other people into that and having that accountability to the people you care about in your life. That's a way to at least do your best to keep that integrity, basically, to get them to help you to keep that integrity.
Yeah, exactly. Now you also started working with young people, helping them to develop their well-being and whatnot. Tell us a little bit about that and how you got involved with working with the younger individuals.
Well, it probably started when I started working in a school. It was a very unconventional school. It's a small, democratic, independent school near where I used to live. And I had the opportunity to do a little bit of coaching with some of the students there. I didn't do hypnotherapy with them. It was just coaching. So I don't, it doesn't, at least I don't think it would go down too well in youth work, hypnotherapy, but
No.
who knows, maybe it would. So that's how I got into it. And then I kind of moved to the big city, moved to London, and by making that transition, I lost most of my client base for my hypnotherapy. So I really had to kind of start doing something slightly different. And that got me into doing a lot of youth work for charities and social enterprises in London. So, and I still do that. Obviously, at the moment, I'm not doing any of it because of the lockdown. But I work for various different social enterprises, and it's all with young people. So one social enterprise is focused on personal finance, and it's really just about helping young people to learn about really simple things like how does tax work, and what kind of bank account should I get? What do I need to look for when I'm searching for the best kind of bank account?
Yeah,
very simple stuff, but things that we don't learn in school.
Yeah, and you're right.
Absolutely. And so I also work for another organisation. We do mental health training in schools for teachers, for young people as well. And I do my own communication workshops and things with young people. And so all of that most of that tends to be with disadvantaged young people from different boroughs in London. And so I find that really interesting. Just there's so many amazing characters that I work with, and in a way, I think if I came across a group of young people that were very well behaved, that I'd find it a little bit boring now, because I want them to be, to kind of kick back a little bit and be a little bit rude and have a little bit of banter, and where you are a little bit more with them. You get to see the real person. They show you who they are straight away.
Kids have a tendency not to hide a whole lot.
Exactly. Especially these guys. So I do a lot of work with young people. And I love it. I absolutely love it.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I have yet. I have worked with one young man so far. Most of the people that I work with are, middle-aged and older people. A lot of them, the name of my business is T2 Nutrition and Wellness, and it was originally all designed around trying to wipe out obesity and type 2 diabetes. And obviously, even though it's becoming a lot more prevalent in younger people now, it's mainly, middle-aged and older. So a lot of those people that I work with, they have a tendency to try to hide things. But I have worked with one young man that he had issues with weight. He also had issues he had ADHD, and he was on a lot of ADHD medications, and it still didn't appear to be doing any good. And actually what I did with him was I transferred him and shifted him to a ketogenic protocol on his nutrition, and started using exogenous ketones with him. And inside of 60 days, he literally was off all of his ADHD meds. The only thing he was taking was exogenous ketones and a multivitamin, and his weight was coming down. His appetite was back, because, as you know, a lot of people that are on ADHD medications, they lose their appetite. And that's why his mother came to me, because she's like, I don't understand it. He acts like he doesn't want to eat, and I don't think he eats a whole lot, but he just keeps gaining weight. So that was one child so far that I've actually worked with and been able to help, and I'd love to work with more. I just haven't had the opportunity as of yet.
Sure.
But now there is one other thing that I want to talk to you about while we have the time. And it's the fact that because you just touched on the fact that, everybody knows that right now, most of the world is in the lockdown due to the coronavirus. And you have taken the time during this historic, most people that are alive today have never had to go through anything like this. So, but you've taken advantage of the time. You've actually started to combine your love of music with hypnotherapy. Now explain to me how you've managed to put that all together.
Well, it's been something that I've wanted to do for a long time, and I've been so busy. I mean, I'm saying this now, it's an excuse. It's an excuse that I've been so busy. I could have done it. But anyway, now is the right time because I literally have nothing else to do. So I've been producing electronic music for quite a while. And it's just a personal thing. I just enjoy doing it, and a few of my friends hear it. Right. And I've wanted to combine that with hypnotherapy for a very long time. So I've put together some. Well, it's an album really of anxiety in a crisis, basically.
Okay.
So it's 2 hours long, various different tracks. And they're all focused on helping you to have a better relationship with anxiety. It's not about kind of eradicating anxiety or never having it again or anything like that. Right. It's about embracing it, having that relationship, understanding it, just like you would with a partner or something like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, I love doing it. I combine various different methods that are shown to help to induce a relaxed state in people. So, for example, I don't know if you've heard of binaural beats at all.
I was actually listening to them this morning while I was doing some video editing. Yes, I love that stuff.
Brilliant. So the idea is that you entrain the brain to operate at the frequency at which you are creating with the sound that you're making. So there's that in it. I also match the tempo to a heart rate. So it starts off at a sort of normal heart rate and then it goes down to a relaxed heart rate. So it very subtly changes tempo as it goes through and then comes back at the end. And obviously a lot of natural sounds, we all know when we hear the birds sing or when you hear the waves of the sea or trickling water, it has an immediate relaxing effect.
Yes, it does.
So I use a lot. Absolutely. So I use a lot of that as well. A little bit of white noise that helps too, and I know a lot of people play that to babies to help them to sleep. Just a sort of sound. Yeah. Simply just noise helps. So I kind of combine all of that and my own hypnosis, take people on a journey, and then and hopefully that can help them to get to grips with their anxiety or whatever it is that they want to overcome. It's very different to working one-to-one with someone because I have to anticipate what people might be thinking and then have to put in suggestions to counteract that or to work with what I think people might think rather than what they're actually thinking and what they're actually displaying. But so that's what I've got going, and I've got it up on my first album up on Bandcamp now. Okay. And I do more and more. I'm also wanting to get it onto Insight Timer, but I have to make a few adjustments to use it on that platform. Right. And the only way is up. I'm really excited. I've produced also a very short piece that was specifically for frontline workers. So there was an organisation that reached out to me to do some volunteering for people who are working in the healthcare system, in the care system during this crisis. Okay, right. Obviously very overworked, and they wanted something 3 minutes long that would be just super relaxing, and help them to unwind within those 3 minutes so they could go back into work feeling a lot better.
Okay.
So I've also got that. That's a free one. That's it's on YouTube as well.
Okay.
So yeah, that's kind of a bit of an overview of the of my self-hypnosis audios that I'm making.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, I actually, again, like I said, I follow Aubrey Marcus. I listen to his podcast and whatnot, and that was where I first heard about binaural beats. And he would actually use them to take a power nap in the middle of the day. He would put on binaural beats, and he would take like a 20-minute power nap, and he wouldn't even really sleep, but it would just reset the rhythm of his brain and refocus him and energize him. And after listening to him talk about that, I started to investigate. There's different YouTube channels and whatnot that actually do live streams of binaural beats. And it's just, I have found so many times that I've been in here trying to work, whether it's writing a blog post or putting together video content, doing editing, whatever, and I just can't focus. It's like my head is all over the place, and I can just take 15, 20 minutes and turn on some binaural beats and turn all the lights off in my office and just light an incense. And by time that 15, 20-minute break is over, my mind is like a juggernaut again, and it's ready to just blast forward and continue on with the tasks that I need to deal with throughout my day. And so it's a truly powerful thing, and I'm glad that you're producing this stuff. I'm definitely going to link it in the show notes so that way people can check it out without a doubt. Okay, so I have one final question for you, and it's the same question that I ask everybody. Now, primarily, my company is all about health and fitness, and most of my guests have ties to that in some way, shape, or form, as do you. So my question is this: if you could change one thing about health and fitness on a global level, if you could affect a policy, if you could institute some sort of idea or something like that would change health and fitness on a global level, what would it be?
That's a really interesting question. There's a lot of things that I would do, but something that's come into my mind recently is about funding. And so I know that, I think we're lucky that we have the NHS here. So that's healthcare free at the point of service.
Right.
But it's cheap. And originally it wasn't so cheap. Over the years, they've cut the funding and they've outsourced things to private organizations, and it's not moving in a great direction.
Right.
So I think that, very simply, if the powers that be were literally just to pump more money into healthcare, which is the most important thing for everyone, then the healthcare would be better for everyone. It's such a simple thing, but I've been talking to my mum, who's involved in healthcare as well. She's an osteopath. We have, like, my uncle's a doctor. We've got a lot of medical people in the family. It's a controversial subject because it's about vaccines. So I'm not 100% against vaccines, and I'm not 100% for vaccines. But what seems to be going on is vaccines seem to be done very cheaply. So the problem with that is that there's a blanket one-size-fits-all vaccine that they'll give to everyone. Right. And there's a lot of people that it'll cause more problems for. It won't actually work very well for a significant proportion of the population.
Okay.
So I think if people are tested properly for a particular kind of vaccine that would work for their system, and this could be coming up, obviously, with the vaccine for the coronavirus. It's not here yet, but people are working on it, and it could be compulsory as well. Yeah. So if they're going to make it compulsory, it needs. I so passionately believe that it has to be a vaccine that works with your system, and not just a one-size-fits-all vaccine. So that's one of the things that I would want to change. But I could go on and on forever.
Oh, I know. Trust me. For every time I ask that question on this show, I have like a million answers that I could give myself. Because I'm one of those people that I see so many things going on in the world that are affecting my mission and what it is that I want to do. And it's so much of it is just accepted, and it's like it's okay, and it pisses me off. It really does. So trust me, if I go on somebody else's show, which I do on occasion, if they ask me anything similar to that type of question, let me tell you, they wind up getting quite a long podcast, because I can just go on and on and on. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Okay, so is there anything else that you'd like to discuss that we haven't already touched on before we wrap things up?
I don't think so. I mean, only just one more thing about healthcare.
Okay.
I would certainly like alternative approaches to be embraced in generally in healthcare. Obviously including hypnotherapy. And other methods. There is some rubbish out there, but there are some countries that have got their game in order. Like I think it's in Germany, where they'll subscribe. No, it's not subscribe, is it? I can't think of the word. Prescribe herbal remedies before they prescribe any pharmaceutical remedies. I don't know if it's in every case or whatever, but at least they'll give them a chance, and it's something that is obviously has fewer side effects, is better for the body,
right?
And so there is a lot of good stuff happening in the world to do with alternative medicine. I wish the mainstream would embrace a lot of that more.
But they're getting there. I do have to say they're getting there. I mean, one of the things is a lot of countries now are recognizing the benefits of marijuana and CBD and things of that nature. CBD is like super, super powerful, and it's not there. There's absolutely, look, I've got this stuff right here. This is the stuff that I use. It's from a company called Mountaineer brand. Yeah, my camera doesn't autofocus. If it did that, I would have one that autofocuses, but I talk too much with my hands, so every time I do it, it would be searching, and I don't want to do that. But yeah, this is it's from Mountaineer brand RX, and it's a CBD oil. I also have a balm that I use for sore muscles and joints and things like that. Amazing. And the CBD oil is so effective at it's like binaural beats. It really helps to calm down the mind and focus you. It's also really, really good for relieving anxiety and things of that nature. And for so long, this stuff was available in other countries and whatnot, but in the United States, it was outlawed because CBD is made from the cannabis plant and cannabis has THC in it. We can't have that. If CBD oil is manufactured properly from hemp, you have less than 0.03% THC in it, which will not affect you in any way, shape, or form. But it's just one of those things that, you've got to bang on enough drums and knock down enough doors that people finally start to realize that all these herbal remedies and things like that are so beneficial. And I think a lot of it has to do with the money that can be made. If I had to be totally honest, I just did a podcast with a friend of mine who's also an osteopath up in Canada. And the whole show that we did was about supplements and whatnot. And we were talking about how things like, medical marijuana that has the THC in it still has a lot of medical benefits to it. You know what I'm saying? It helps to reduce seizures in people that have epilepsy and things like that.
Absolutely.
So you're spot on with your answers. I mean, it's just a matter of we as a people, as the world needs to recognize that there are deficiencies in a lot of areas that can be corrected through government just saying, hey, we identify that this is a problem and we need to fix it. And our health as a species, as the human race, our health needs to stop being about so much damn money.
Yeah.
It's not about the doctors getting rich. It's not about the hospitals and the pharmaceutical companies getting rich. It's about the quality of human life, guys. That's how I see it anyway.
Yeah, we can't take any money. You know, you can't. It's not gonna. Money is. It's not permanent. Your health is the most important thing. It's fundamental, isn't it? And we all know that.
Sure.
But we need to act like we know it, don't we?
Yeah. Exactly. All right, my friend. Well, I don't want to take up any more of your time. I want to thank you for coming on the show. If you have anything new coming up in the future that you want to jump back on here and talk about, by all means, you always have an open invitation here on the podcast. Do me a favor. I'm going to link everything in the show notes, but tell everybody where they can find you as far as like website, any social media, anything like that.
Sure. Thank you, John. By the way, yeah, it's a real pleasure to be on your podcast. It's fantastic, and I'd love to come back at some point. So my website is pretty easy. It's changefeelsgood.co.uk. There's links to all of my social profiles on the top bar of the website there. So if you're, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, I'm not on Instagram yet. Maybe I will be. But it's, 3 is enough for me at the moment.
Right.
Obviously, if you go to changefeelsgood.bandcamp.com, then you'll find my new album. You can download that, have a listen, and see if it works. And a bit of feedback. If you can drop a comment, that'll be amazing. So I know, how it's been working for you. And then I've got a profile on Insight Timer, which is actually, there's nothing on it at the moment, but it will be. So if you check out Change Feels Good on Insight Timer as well, you'll find me there. And so it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much indeed.
All right. Well, I'm going to ask you to hang around for 1 second. I'm going to wrap this thing up, and then we'll have a few parting words. All right, guys, if you got value out of this video, and I know you did because I don't bring people on here that you can't get value from. But like I say, if you got value from it, make sure that you hit the subscribe button here on my YouTube channel. Hit the bell so that way you get notified each and every week when new episodes of the Jacked Up podcast drop. So until then, till I see you again, that is, you guys know my motto. Playtime's over. Time to go to work.